All right, we are live. You're watching the Prepper's Bunker Outdoors. Our special guest today is Prentice with Crafted by Night. Prentice, why don't you tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel and what you guys do while I get comments pulled up here.
So we a little unconventional living. So we have built a off-grid pole barn house that we have done. It's a 40 by 60 building all together, and we took and separated off part of it. You can actually see the wall behind us. Actually, the house is behind us. We're in the shop, and it is about 1,500 square feet, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and it's completely off-grid, all solar, water catchment. And that was something we wanted to try to do. We always look at land in places that utilities are hard to get, so I wanted to figure out how to do it. So this is our prototype off-grid house, and we have a YouTube channel, Projects by Night, on YouTube. That kind of showed. We just kind of started it when we started building the house, and kind of just showed videos of what we did and how we did it. And so it was basically building an efficient house on a budget. So if you like cheap houses that don't look like a cardboard box, then check it out.
So I actually am gonna have to rename the video because I said with Crafted by Night.
Well, I mean, it is with Crafted by Night too, so technically that's true.
Well, we'll change it to Projects by Night. But you make furniture and cutting boards.
Yeah. So the house project spun into, we live in the woods, or where we're building the houses in the woods. So we cut down a bunch of trees, and I bought a portable bandsaw mill, cut up the trees, and I built all my inside lumber out of the trees that we cut down to clear the house. So all of our, you'll notice if you look at the videos, the floor joist and subfloor, the trim, and then I've started making some rustic furniture. I had all the tools to do it, so then I started doing some like coffee tables and cutting boards, and that's where the Crafted by Night was started.
So he has an Instagram for Crafted by Night and Projects by Night. We'll put links to those Instagrams in the description box below, as well as links to my Instagram as well. And thank you for tuning in for the people that we've got so far. Survival LT, Radon, appreciate you guys. Cops with Cuffs. All right.
There we go.
Let's see, what else? Oh, so basically, Prentice and I have been friends for quite a while now, and I would say that we both kind of prepare, but we do it a little bit differently. Prentice knows a lot more about homesteading. He knows a lot more about building, and he has experience as a contractor. So everything that I build looks like junk, and everything that he builds looks nice. He does about half the time, so we bug him all the time. But and I do more of weapons, military, and I do a lot of bushcraft stuff. So it's kind of a little bit different perspectives or different skill sets in the same genre. So if you're looking to start prepping and your thought process is towards practical prepping that can make your regular everyday life better, even if there is no emergency, you're definitely going to want to check out Projects by Night. I want to give some quick news about Exodus Knife and Tool. So our next run of knives is from White River Knives. If you didn't know already, our knives will be an S35 VN. And White River Knives is very organized, the most organized company that we've worked with. And I will have a production schedule from them. Productions being pushed back a little bit. I think it's going to be mid-September. Now, even though I have projected dates for completion of this run, which I will tell everybody, and hopefully I'll have the website up this week. Hey, Rick, glad to have you. I don't want to. They're not hard and fast production times. As we've learned with this whole coronavirus situation, everything like that, everything is
up in the air.
Yeah, it's kind of a guess. So anything can happen, but I'm thinking early to mid-September right now, we'll have a full run of Exodus Knife and Tool Adventure Crafts and Jackalopes. They will be available for pre-sale probably by August, and I think we're going to have about 80 knives. I would guess they'll probably all be sold before I have any in hand, but we'll get started on the next run of them. So that's the update for that. For anybody who's curious, the first run handle materials will be natural micarta with a stonewash blade, OD green with stonewash, OD green micarta with stonewash blade, Gibbs Scout, thanks for being here. OD green with stonewash, orange micarta from Email Epoxy Lab in Poland. Orange micarta, that will be a very special edition with a black finish, and then orange G10 with a stonewash finish. So very exciting stuff with that. So I've had some political issues to talk about lately. I've actually been meaning to do quite a few videos on things that are going on. And I thought today might be a good opportunity to talk to you guys about some of the things that are going on and to bring Prentice in to talk about it as well. But I actually, through reading a fiction book, had an aha moment, had a light bulb turn on, and that kind of brought some things together that I probably already knew but didn't necessarily put into words. So basically, we're going to talk a little bit about American religion and how it's affecting our current political climate. And so to give a little bit of backstory for myself, growing up in the public school system, I didn't understand how any government-mandated theory or law would be so vehemently supported by all the teachers and everybody in the school. And it didn't matter what topic you're talking about, evolution or anything else. If you disagreed, hey, Jack, good to have you. If you disagreed, the people who disagreed with you would hate you. They become very angry. And we see that a lot today.
It's not even like there's no agree to disagree anymore. It's like you're
either you comply with the state's concept of something or you're the enemy for them. And so it doesn't matter whether we're talking about, for instance, biology in college. They said that a theory is stronger than a fact or a law because a theory has not been disproven. That's like a religious dogma. That's something that somebody says that makes sense to nobody, but they have to, you have to believe it though. Bill Gates, all right, so Ray Don said, Bill Gates, the eugenicist, says everyone will need many, many COVID shots or will be shut down out of society. Prepare for the fight or be sterilized. So we're definitely getting into that. Where I'm going with this is I, in the past, never really understood how people could so violently oppose logic. One more way to describe this, it was 7th grade social studies with Miss Pickett. They were talking about global warming. Everybody believed in global warming. It was man-made, and it was going to destroy us all. And I said, I can disprove global warming as a matter of fact that it is not going to continue warming, it is not man-made, and it's not going to kill us all. And so Miss Pickett thought that was humorous and asked me how, and I said, well, we have had ice ages, right? She said, yeah. I said, we're not in an ice age, right? Correct. Well, that means that we have a cycle. It gets hotter, and then it gets colder. And it gets hotter, and it gets colder, and it always has. Everybody in the entire class laughed at me. I thought, being young, that I had just said something that was going to blow everybody's mind, and that I just blew the top off of this, right? And I thought that everybody who heard it would be like, that makes sense. Yeah, this whole global warming thing is crap. No, every single person in the classroom laughed at me. Just laughed at me.
Yeah, and I remember seeing on the news one time, they were like like on this global warming, that the snow had melted down so far that they found an airplane that had crashed 80 years ago. And I'm like, well, it landed on top of the snow 80 years ago. So clearly
Right.
And I may be wrong on the years, but the point was
Right.
it's never been down this far. And I'm like, well, it was here. It landed there.
Well, so man-made climate change changed from global warming when the Chinese climate change scientific vessel got stuck in record level ice in the polar ice caps that wasn't supposed to be there, and like tripled in size in 1 year. And they were like, oh, global warming's crap, and the polar ice caps all freezing over because it's getting colder. And instantly, the scientific community was just shocked and had to change it. However, so this book, I'm reading Dune. It's a fantasy series from 1965, probably one of the very earliest fiction novels to really catch on. And one thing that they said is to rule an empire, you have to make law into religion so that breaking the law is a sin. So I realized that all these life experiences that I've had, these people, even if they're contradictory beliefs that the state has put out, even if they're easily contradicted with history or science, they will say that they are pro-science, and they will vehemently support the defense of the position of the state, even if they clearly don't understand it at all, because regardless of what they say their religion is, Christian, Muslim, Jew, atheist, agnostic, they worship the state. So if the state says that the sky is red, they'll believe it. If you say it's not red, they will think that you are sinning against their God, and they take it personally. And it's just like, it's just like the book 1984 as well. And so, Prince, I'm sure that you see people act this way as well. And it's really crazy. Locally, we're in Kentucky, and a lot of Christians voted for Andy Beshear. And you'd see in church, if you weren't going to vote for Andy Beshear, they'd look at you like you were crazy. I think you experienced that a little bit, didn't you?
You would see, I mean, it's just that whole thing. Political stuff is weird to me. It doesn't have anything to do with right or wrong. It's got to do with, actually, the wronger it is, the righter it is.
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
is kind of like how it works. So if you've got morals and you have beliefs to back them, and you use whether you use science or the Bible, then you're the weirdo, because they've just made something up, and that's what they're going to do. So,
yeah, so it's crazy. And now all of those self-proclaimed Christians who actually worship the state and who are business owners are all poo-poo faced because they elected a communist, and communists don't like privately owned business. So they act surprised. They'll still vote for Amy McGrath, though. Anyways.
Probably so.
Yeah. Mr. Who, yeah, Bill Gates was involved, as far as I understand it, with some sterilization in Africa through vaccinations.
Well, didn't he go so far as to say to control the population?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to control the population, you're not trying to keep people alive. You're trying to keep people from being alive.
And part of my education difficulties could have been that a lot of it was in Washington State, and I was in the International Baccalaureate program, which was supposed to be like an honors education program funded by the Gates Foundation. So maybe that's another reason why
you got an extra layer of brainwashing.
Yeah, that's why I butted heads with teachers and peers so much. Or maybe it's just because that's who I am. Inversion Slayer.
Just go with that's who you are.
Yeah, probably. Says all weather on the sphere is driven by the sun. The sun has cycles that affects all planets in our system. And practical outdoorist, I am doing very well. We have a new son being born very soon, and I am extremely busy, so I'm blessed. So that's a big thing that I want to talk about, and I think the reason that I found it to be important to mention is because it gave me context for things that I already saw, and now it makes more sense. Like, how can, like, for instance, like I said, with the climate change, it made perfect sense to me to point out the fact that it's undeniable that we've had heating and cooling. It's a scientific fact.
We have records that go back that far.
And yet I was called a science denier. I was anti-science because I pointed out science that
Didn't align with the
absolutely
agenda.
right, exactly.
And that's really what it boils down to.
It's funny when we're called anti-science.
You wouldn't jump on the bandwagon.
So, Noodles. Hey Jacob, you said you would consider naming your son Noodles. Are you still considering it? Probably not. We might call him Noodles though, in your honor. So, his name is planned to be Isaac Frederick Peterson, and maybe we'll call him Noodles. I mean, that's not
Good
too bad.
nickname. I mean, it's not bad. It could be worse.
His uncle Joshua's nickname is Uncle Bob. I don't know why. He was just like, to your children, I am Uncle Bob. Okay.
My girls think Bob is the funniest name in the world.
Yeah.
Like you just say Bob and they just start laughing. So I don't know.
It's perfect.
They got a great grandfather Bob, and when they found that out, they just were like rolling laughing.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know where it came from, but they've got it.
Yeah. There you go. Maybe one of them will end up marrying a Bob. Maybe that's how that's going to be set up.
That'll all circle back around.
Stand strong. Glad to have you, buddy. Actually, I believe that I've got my Stand Strong Art 1984 COVID 1984 patch on me. That is some good stuff right there. Oh, you guys can't hardly see it. So it says COVID 1984. I'm going to pull this all the way up here so you guys can see this. This is a really cool patch. Oh, yeah. Obviously, it's mirrored there. This is a Gadsden Dynamics war belt, and I had it custom made in Alpenflage. I actually had one of my Alpenflage tops. I cut it into pieces and sent it to him. I don't think he'll normally do that. I don't know. But we did it. It was cool. I like it. All right. So, let's see what we got going on here. Mr. Who said at one time back in the 30s, the weather dropped down to like negative 20 degrees in Texas. So we certainly have weather anomalies. And anybody with a couple brain cells to rub together knows that you can look all the way back to the weather cycles in ancient Egypt and that we've had crazy ups and downs in weather. And, you know, it's just amazing the things that the government can use to distract people from problems. And they'll eat it up without a second thought. Today, while I was driving here, there's this person driving like this Nissan ultra compact car, like way smaller than like a normal compact car.
Like the smart car, like
a little bit bigger than a smart car, but like not much.
Yeah.
It was like baby blue, and there was an obese dude driving it by himself.
I already know where this is going.
With a rainbow face mask. And he's doing like 10 under the speed limit. And I'm just like, please remove yourself from the gene cycle, the gene pool, because you're not doing anybody any good. Potentially, he already removed himself from the gene pool. So he might be doing us a favor. Maybe I shouldn't rag on him. All right, and Noodles wants to stir up some controversy. He said, can you give us your opinion on the MSK survival knife and the man who created it? All right, so
I know nothing about this.
I know. Okay, so there's this dude who made a survival knife in America called the MSK1. And he like made survival videos, but they're pretty cheesy. And basically he was like a shill for Gerber. And he got a lot of subscribers because a lot of children followed him because he had really good like editing quality, sound quality, all that. So he released this knife. It was like $500. It was in D2, which is not necessarily a steel that I'd pick for a survival knife at all. And he marketed it as the last knife you'll ever need and the ultimate knife for the end of the world. Okay, so it's like $500, and replaces a hatchet. I want to get into like this will help some people. I want to talk about knives real quick here. There's no magic in knives. So when it comes to carving performance or chopping performance, it comes down to the shape of your edge, how acute or obtuse it is, the thickness behind the edge. So you not only do you have the shape, but you have how far apart it is before you get to a micro bevel, and you have length, and you have weight and weight distribution. This is math and physics. So when you have someone like Dave from Ultimate Survival Tips saying that you can replace your axe with a knife that weighs like 16 ounces with a 5-inch blade that's this big, and people believe it, it just goes to show, even in the survival community, these people have good intentions who buy this.
I think they're trying, but I think they've missed the boat.
The problem is, you can't buy your way into preparedness, because you can have all of the best gear in the entire world, or you think you have all the best gear in the entire world, spend tens of thousands of dollars, and just die because you don't know how to do anything.
It don't matter what gear you have. If you're in the middle of New York City, what's good? I mean,
yeah. So for instance, I got a lot of comments when I reviewed this knife. One of them said that the guy bought it and put it into a shoebox in his closet and was saving it for a disaster. Well, if me and that guy ended up in the woods with a knife and I had a $20 Mora, I would get a lot more done than him, because I've invested in training and gone out and done a lot of the work with primitive skills. And that's far more valuable than just buying something, but it's not nearly as fun. It is fun. It does have its own enjoyment. But if you just like buying things, it's a lot of work to go do. And buying things is just fun, right? So,
but if you bought the $19 knife, think how many more of them you could buy. So, I mean, that could be fun too.
That's true.
Volume. I mean, you could lose them.
Yeah,
break them, but still have knives left over.
But then you can't like make fun of other people for their cheap knives.
Oh, well, you know what price range knives I buy.
And that's a real thing for people though. Like
and a chainsaw.
If you have two Glock pistols that are mechanically exactly the same, and one's ultra rare and painted a different color and 6 times the price,
somebody will buy it.
Somebody will buy it. Especially if there's not many of them made. So, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to buy it, because if you got the money and you want it for collector's use, or you're willing to pay for it because you don't care and that's what you want to buy, go for it. But you need to understand what you're doing. Like,
it doesn't make you a better shot to spend that extra money for the color of the gun.
Well, and if you're like, I have exorbitant amounts of money, and so paying any amount extra just to get this color that I like, I know I'm just paying for a color, but I don't care. If you know that it's not actually a better product, but you just don't care and the money doesn't affect you and you can still go and get your training and everything else, that's fine. You can spend your money however you want. Don't go on forums and tell everybody how you're better than them because you got a better color pistol than them, because they're going to be like, dude, you're dumb because you got the exact same pistol as us. Right. So anyway, that's just an example, and Exodus Knife and Tool, my own knife company, okay? My very small adventure craft knife is going to be about $145 in a premium steel made by a premium manufacturer in America, in Michigan. And a little bit larger knife, like a normal size belt knife, still considered probably a small knife, it's going to be about $185, I think. You can get a knife that works great for much cheaper. I believe mine will be better in a lot of different ways. And I believe the shape and the design of mine is superior in a lot of different ways, but you don't have to spend that money to get a good knife. And I'll tell anybody that. There's a point of diminishing returns, and if you don't love knives, you just want a really good knife, then you're going to go buy an Essie, and it's going to cost you less. But if you love knives, then you're going to want one of my knives because they're really cool. And that's fine. I believe there's nothing wrong with that. And I have expensive knives, and I love knives. I fully understand that. But I also understand the guy who doesn't love knives but wants to go get training, wants to be prepared, and doesn't want to spend a premium price for a knife that has a rate of diminishing returns. He has other places to spend his money. Then I'll tell you, look, go buy an Essie. Buy an SE6. Buy a CR 2.5, JG3. Whatever the case may be, you'll save $40 or $50. You can buy ammo with that, And you'll notice the difference. Mine's going to be stainless. It's not going to be as tough. It'll hold its edge longer. It's all...
Everything's a trade-off.
Everything's a trade-off.
Everything's a trade-off.
All I'm saying is you don't have to spend a premium price. There's a rate of diminishing return. After you spend a certain amount, as you spend more, you're getting a little bit less and less and less for your money as you spend more. Uh-oh. Anyways, I got on a tangent here. No, I don't. No.
You want to skip free trial?
Skip trial. You don't need any trial. All right, so let's go back here and... all right. Mr. Who, did you see the woman at AOC thing a few years back from the woman talking about eating babies? That was phenomenal. Did you see that?
I did not, but it does not surprise me. So.
Well, she, I guess, was actually a plant. Someone sent her there to make AOC look bad. And, you know, that's fine with me. You know, I'm not embarrassed to admit that I read that and I believe that. But she went to Alexandria Cortez's rallies and was like, what we're doing for climate change is not good enough. We have to start eating the babies. And she's like, Cortez was like, and she's like, it's not enough. Start eating babies. And she's like, oh okay. I will say that she didn't have the right reaction. She never said, no, we're not going to start eating babies. But Cortez supports murdering babies anyways, so she's not really going to oppose this girl. But well, it was humorous. That was a good thing.
Humorous and sad all at the same time.
Practical Outdoorsist said, grow your own food, buy more ammo. The government does not care about you. Take care of your family and self, period. If your focus is on taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, and becoming a better person, we should constantly be striving to become better individuals in every way, you will be very hard to mislead. You have to become ungovernable, and the government cannot manipulate you if you don't care about them, you don't listen to them, and you just focus on you and your family. And if you care about what the government's saying, the government will always work to mislead you. That's what government does. And the Founding Fathers knew that and threw it right into the Federalist Papers and our Bill of Rights and Constitution. So that's on the money. All right. Mr. Who, got SE5. You'll probably like it. A little thick for the size, a little bit heavy for the size for my taste, but it's a good quality knife. Stand Strong asks, what's the best setup for knives for survival? I have a few knives in my bag for a few purposes. The best setup. There's a lot of variables. Depends on where you live, what you like to do, what you need to do. Some people will say an axe, a saw, and a belt knife. And that's actually a fairly standard loadout that's been just talked about since Nessmuck. And I hear all the time, but I never see anybody in the woods with an axe.
Even though, I mean, I guess the weight of carrying an axe, but I mean, growing up, we used axes for stuff all the time. I mean, you can cut something so much faster with an axe than a knife. It's
no
not
question.
Even like, or a machete. Now, that's one I never hear anybody talk about, but we grew up with machetes, like fence rows. It didn't matter what, we was using them all the time. And
I love machetes, and machetes are affordable. Now, most machetes are made to be halfway disposable.
Yes, we got all ours from, like, my cousin would bring them back from Costa Rica. Like, they were, like, legitimate machetes.
So the idea of a machete is, like, you spend $5, $10, $15, $20 most of the time on a machete, and if you break it, you go get another one. It's not that nice, but works incredibly well, and there's no emotional tie to the tool. It's just another tool,
just a tool.
that
When
goes
it breaks,
in the tool
it breaks.
shed.
Yeah.
And so there's huge potential in machetes, especially if you can put a good edge on them. Now, there are more expensive machetes, and I have really enjoyed some more expensive machetes, but you don't quite use them the same. because an expensive machete is a little bit of a contradiction. And that's not to say I don't like them.
Yeah.
I've got a Tops .170 machete. I think they're about 120 to 150 bucks. I like it a lot. Really good tool. I use the machete. It's great, but I'm not going to abuse it like I potentially would an affordable machete,
right.
which is kind of the benefit of the affordable machete. However, if you're out in the woods doing a survival trip or a long camping trip or trapping trip, you might not want a disposable tool because it might have to get you home.
Right.
In which case, an axe is less of a disposable tool. It's a good option, or a hatchet. But like, again, it just comes back to like, I have never seen a person on the trail who wasn't car camping who had an axe or a hatchet. If you're on the farm or on the homestead, or if you brought your car and you're camping with your car, bring an axe. Don't even screw around with a hatchet. But like if you're
hiking in,
if you're hiking in, I've never seen someone hiking a long ways with that axe or hatchet, which means you're probably going to bring a knife and you have to tailor the things that you do to the tools that you have. That's where bushcraft people are like, don't do all these things with your knife. It's too valuable a tool. They're like, don't.
If you have a tool, for example, I do construction, and if I've got a cordless drill in my hand and I'm up on top of a ladder and I need to tap something, guess what? I'm going to use the drill because I'm not going to climb down, go to the truck, get a hammer, come back because time is money. And if you're in the woods, it's the same thing. If you got one tool and this is what you need to do to get what you need to get done, then you need to have a tool good enough that it can take it.
Right.
It's not going to pop as soon as you tap on a rock with it.
Right. And so that's where the difference between what I consider to be a woods utility knife and a bushcraft knife comes in. Bushcraft knife is phenomenal for making traps, snares, carving spoons, feather sticks, all of the stuff. But they traditionally have a Scandinavian grind with no micro bevel. So what that means is if you've got a knife that's this thick, or if you're looking at it through a magnifying glass, where it's ground to an edge, it's ground all the way up straight to a point, 0 degrees. It's weak. It is stronger to have the grind of your knife be more like this. This is a micro bevel. As an example, you see that shiny part there? That's called a micro bevel. That knife, instead of being ground all the way to a point, is ground up to a certain point and then is ground again steeper along the edge. That's called micro bevel. It makes it much stronger, but you have a thicker edge. It's not going to just go through that wood like butter. Like
it's more like a split and maul versus a chopping axe.
Well,
it's
see,
the same
yeah,
kind of concept.
Even with the 0 degree Scandi is almost like a plane or a good chisel.
Right.
If Justin was doing woodwork with a chisel, he's not going to go bang on something with that chisel.
Right.
That is
no, chisel is for special things.
That's
keep
actually
it in good shape.
That's what it's interesting to me when we talk about woodworking or knives or something like that. People will be like, why didn't you just use a chisel? And I'm like, you don't know what a chisel is used for, clearly. Because a chisel is something that you baby.
It's a delicate finesse
and
tool.
Keep sharp. Or a plane, the blade on a plane.
Yeah.
So that's like your Scandi knife. Whereas, an SE6 or a knife with this micro bevel, I consider more a utility knife because you can do all those wood tasks. It's not as buttery smooth. It takes a little more skill. It's not quite as nice. But if you need to bang it through a piece of firewood to split it,
do it.
Because that's what you've got on hand, then do it. And people are like, oh, I would never this, that, or the other with my knife. If you're out in the woods, you hiked out there and you really need to get a fire going and you need to split that piece of wood, you're going to do it. Stop saying you don't baton. Because if you don't baton, you haven't been out there, way out there with the rain coming in, needing to make a fire with minimal gear. And if you don't have minimal gear, don't tell me you went that far, because no, you didn't take an 80 or 100 pound pack out 20 miles for 3 days. You didn't do it. So let's stop playing games. Okay, I was on that for a little bit long. Loaded question. Jack said you can't go wrong with an SE knife. That's the thing. people will ask me about knives all the time, and a lot of brands have a large variation of knives for different purposes and different styles, and a knife company has to sell knives. That usually means that there are a few gimmick knives in their lineup to sell to people because they need to make money because people want gimmick knives.
Right.
Etsy
Everybody's not trying to survive with a knife. They
Right.
just want a cool knife at a cheap price or affordable price.
Right. But I can just tell people buy an Essie because when they look at Essie, no matter which knife they choose, it's going to be practical. They only make practical knives, and that's what's so amazing about them. Noodles asked, 1095, 01, or A2? I think it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. As long as the heat treat's good on any of them, you're going to be happy with it. I'd probably give an edge to A2, but again, it just doesn't matter. Jack said, I need a jackalope. I think you're already on a list for one, but if you're not, we'll certainly make that happen, buddy. All right. Flat Jacks, what's up, buddy? Okay, Noodles just asked another good question. All right, so I was telling Prentice how these live videos work. He wants to do some live videos, and he has a lot of cool stuff that he could show during live videos or talk about building or any of this stuff. But how these live videos work is I was like, I think we're probably going to talk about politics and current events and then how it kind of ties in to my concept of a universal religion in the United States across all religions people say they have of state worship. And now we're just going to talk about knives for a little while.
Well,
it's just
that's a big part of your life, so
somehow, yeah.
so you might as well roll with it.
Noodles asked, isn't convex the straightest grind? I wish I had a whiteboard here. But to use my hands to explain things again, you have three types of primary grind for, Prentice might be grabbing something. Three types of primary grind in your knife blades. Hollow, flat grind, and convex grind. And under the flat grind category, you have saber grind, and you could probably also throw Scandi in there, or you could say Scandi something completely different. I might draw it if he's grabbing something real quick, but to make this really simple, a hollow ground knife is ground like this. So if you looked down the edge of the knife, it would come out. Oh my goodness.
Oh, we're getting technical now.
You're the man. All right, we're going to draw this out. All right. So we are going to talk about
it's better for me because I can actually watch him draw. Y'all
right.
Sitting there watching nothing.
So this is a knife. Might be hard to tell, but that is a knife. And what we're going to talk about is how this knife was made. How this section of the knife was ground out. It's very important. So the three primary types of grinds are hollow, flat, and convex. And Noodles asked, isn't convex supposed to be the strongest grind type? Yes and no. The primary grind is not the most important variable to how a knife performs or how tough a knife is. Edge thickness is. So next, I'm going to put here an example of edge thickness.
Yeah, he's not an artist, so
No.
you'll see. But we're working on it.
And then, so your types of knife grinds. Again, we're talking about this area of the knife right here, how material was removed from the piece of metal to make the knife sharp. Hollow grind. Okay, it's hollow, pretty easy to understand. Flat grind and convex grind. What I'm going to tell you is that as a general rule, it's considered that convex can be the most efficient and strongest. flat grind somewhere in the middle. Hollow grind is considered to be the most slicey generally. And what I'm here to tell you is that convex grind and hollow grind are the cheapest to make. You remove the least material, remove the least material the fastest doing a convex grind, and you remove the most material the fastest doing a hollow grind. Hollow grind is the cheapest by a large margin. I'm going to tell you what's more important is the edge thickness. And what we have here, if you're looking at a microscope down the edge of a knife, is this would be a thin micro bevel. This would be a thick micro bevel. And this would be no micro bevel. So this here is a zero grind. This is like a Scandi grind. So again, your knife's edge comes straight down, right down the middle. There is no edge thickness behind it. There's no meat behind this edge right here.
So it'd be easy to break out a chunk of the...
Exactly. This, if you imagine force going left or right, at that tip, there's not a lot of metal there to make it strong, but it slices amazingly well. And if you're just going to do bushcraft, or you're just skinning or preparing meat and you're not going to hit it off bone really hard, it's amazing what you can do with a zero ground knife like this. This is probably your more typical knife, right? Here, imagine if there's a lateral force left or right on this knife. It's got all this meat up here. This angle is a little bit more obtuse, and that makes it much, much, much stronger. And then you have axes or silly boy knives with this thick daddy knife edge, which they removed less material when they were grinding it down and then just put a big fat edge on it. And it's tough as crap, but it's physics. When you're trying to cut or chop through something, you have to push a lot of material out of the way. What I have to say that people don't understand, though, is none of these have anything to do with sharpness. This knife, which cuts so well, can be dull as dirt. Maybe it even still cuts well. And this knife can be absolutely lightsaber sharp, but it still wouldn't slice through something well. Sharpness is how well the knife edge is aligned. So if you were to look down the edge of your knife under a microscope, brand new, it should look like the straight line. That edge is just under a microscope as straight as can be. After you use it for a while, it starts looking kind of jankety. It starts getting, you can't even see it with your eye, but it starts getting all of these little bends and dents and crap in it. And so sharpness has to do with how straight you can get that. All right. So, you know, a long time ago, Tops Knives sold their knives with a working edge, which was fat, or if you paid extra, they'd sell you a sharp knife. But they said it wasn't as tough. Any of these knives could have equal sharpness. It's how well they're finished that determines sharpness. It's going to pop the hair off your arm. It's going to slice so easily to a shallow depth, but if it's really obtuse, it's not going to continue slicing down because you have high friction because you're trying
to chop into a 2x4. It's like a wedge.
Right. It's just like a wedge. You're just fighting against friction, and it should be simple. But so there's no magic to this, guys. So convex edges can be very good. They can be very tough, or they can be very weak. What is important in a convex edge is the shape of a convex edge and how much meat there is behind the edge, because a knife can either have a very shallow convex edge or it can have a very thick boy convex edge, and they're going to perform absolutely differently. And this convex edge can be very weak, but is it going to be much stronger than a flat ground edge of the same thickness? No, it's going to be about the same. You're probably not going to notice any difference. This fat boy convex edge here might perform pretty good for a little while, but they tend to dull quicker and it's just not going to cut for crap. I mean, it's too much attention is paid to whether something is flat ground, saber ground, convexed, yada yada yada. What's really important is the geometry and the thickness. That's very important. You can take a crappy flat ground edge and you can convex the edge and sharpen it into a convex, and you can improve the performance. You can also take a nice flat ground edge or even a Scandi edge, and you can convex it and absolutely destroy the performance because you can totally, essentially round the edge.
Everything, it's just like with tools. A plane, if it's not perfect, it's not going to work. Everything's different for different reasons.
Right. Different tools for different purposes, but your typical outdoors knife from a company like K-Bar or SE or Ontario is going to have a very good balance of performance. All right, what do we got going on here? What multi-purpose knives do you recommend for a bug out bag? An SE or a Mora? That's just it. Best bang for the buck.
I'll say, obviously, you recommend your knife.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you can afford to put an Exodus knife and tool into your bug out bag, you should have multiple bug out bags. If you've got one bug out bag and you're going to put your best knife into there, throw your Exodus knife and tool in there. But I would rather you just carry your Exodus knife and tool with you everywhere, every day, because it's going to be your favorite knife. You're always going to want to carry it. You're not going to want to put it in a bag. Red Gat said, always ends up being knife stuff every live stream. Might as well call it the knife stream. We talk about politics a lot. Sometimes stuff comes up and we get on political rant, but sometimes it just ends up being about knives. Yeah,
well, when you have a night life.
G-Dog asked, sorry if I missed it, but Scandi compared to convex. That's fine. So essentially, this would be Scandi. The edge comes straight down. It's weak. Scandi grinds with a true 0-degree grind are weak, but with good edge geometry, they cut very well. Some companies make thick garbage Scandi grinds that don't cut for piss, but as a general rule, they cut really well and they're weak. Convex is usually a more well-rounded utility primary grind than Scandi. Let's get deep. Martensite and austenite formation, distal tapers, let's not mess around. Distal tapers are nice for weight distribution, and you get it from forging, and that's fun, and you want to get rid of all of your austenite, right? And get as much martensite as possible. Basically, what Levi is saying there is heat treat your knives right. And guys, one steel is not, as a rule, harder than another. You hear it all the time. This steel is good because it gets really hard. It's a hard steel, and it holds its edge a long time because it's hard. The hardness of the steel depends entirely on the heat treat. You can have random garbage China steel heat treated to typically, or as a general rule, to 60 HRC, or you can have mega super ultimate steel at 50 HRC. But typically, every knife that you buy almost is going to be at 58 HRC. One steel is not necessarily harder than another. Brittler? Yes. Holds an edge longer? Sure. Not harder. It can be harder if they heat treated it harder. It all depends. One time, Prentice mentioned we were talking about machetes, that a lot of the machetes that you used didn't have that nice ring when you slapped them like the Costa Rican ones did.
Right. You buy a machete here at wherever, TSC or Ace or wherever, and it's like you can literally bend it. Like,
it's because it's soft trash.
Yeah, it's
junk.
A joke. And we were getting stuff from countries where they actually survived with, I mean, it was their machetes. Equipment. And you could get them, I think we buy them for like $5 a piece. Now, this was 25 years ago, and they would like last a lifetime. If you didn't lose them, I mean, there was some, I grew up with the Mennonites, and we would use them for cutting sorghum cane and all kinds of stuff. And there were some of them, they were filed down till there was just like they were like a little sword left.
Yeah.
You know, they would just last forever.
Yep.
So definitely.
All right, G-Dog brought it back to geometry. Sorry to bring it back to convex, but convex would be the best for a bushcraft knife. Thank you. No. Bushcraft is the practice of making things in the woods. It is crafting in the bush. So if you want to go out into the woods and you want to make feather sticks, you want to make spoons, you want to make traps, Scandy's going to be the best. All you're doing is working with wood and making little things. All right, Scandy is amazing for that. Now, if you start getting more into the fire prep side of bushcraft and the harder use stuff, then maybe think about an axe or a utility knife with a saw. And so for that, convex is better. I still prefer a good flat grind over convex every time. So if you mean bushcraft as most people do, as in more survival, then convex is good. But if you mean bushcraft as in traditional crafts made out of wood in the bush,
making basket parts,
right? Then go with the traditional Scandinavian grind. The Scandinavian people with their lukus and pukus make knives that were phenomenal for working with wood, because that's what they did, and they were also great for fish. Fish bones don't break knives. Heavy animal bones do. Traditional workhorse type. Yeah, Scandi would be better than convex for traditional workhorse. Oh, you're not talking about sawhorse. You're talking about workhorse. Then utility, yeah, convex or flat grind. Yep. All right, guys. Well, I think that we'll kill it. I guess we're not very political tonight, but that's all right. I appreciate everybody that was here. If you missed the political side of our discussion, or what Prentice does with Crafted by Night and Projects by Night, I sometimes get the by nights mixed up a little bit.
If it's about off-grid solar power, living off grid, right, it's Projects by Night. If it's about custom woodworking stuff, it's Crafted by Night. So we just started the Crafted just to kind of keep it separate, and we, have kind of started on that. It's kind of just starting out.
All right, my dad just commented cool RAM. So this was the Cummins, and Prentice, I think you said that you were still confident that you could find Dad a good deal on a Cummins.
I think I can.
Don't buy a gas.
Don't do it. The price difference is not worth the difference right now, or at least it wasn't when I bought this one. Surprisingly, some of the deals you could get on a new one, it was only a few $1,000s more than a truck 5 years old with 150,000 miles on it.
Well, and the thing is, it's like the motorcycle I just bought. Used ones aren't selling much cheaper than the new ones, and some of the used ones are selling for more.
Right.
Because he was looking at them and he was finding used Cummins that were $60,000 and $70,000, and I was like,
well, and that was the thing. I've never bought new trucks. I've always bought them at 200, drove them to 400, sold them to somebody I knew for what I paid for them, and do it again. But as I started looking at nicer, we do a lot of traveling, and I wanted something that would just be nice. The newer stuff handles better, a lot tighter steering, and so I was looking at 14 and up, and it was like at 150 to 180,000 miles. There was hardly any difference in the price of a brand new one, which obviously has new warranty, actually gets better fuel mileage. I'm getting 20 miles a gallon with the brand new stock truck. So I've been not to make a Ram commercial, but I've been very happy with the truck.
Well, and he looks really professional when he pulls up with his custom premium furniture, pulling around a brand new truck. It looks nice. Nice trailer, nice truck. It looks good.
Job.
It looks good. So, but yeah, if you can pay around $40,000 for a Cummins, then don't get a gas. If you're looking at $2,500 or $3,500. But anyways, yeah, maybe sometime you'll have to just
should do a truck review.
You should do a truck review. You totally should. You should get all of your Cummins together and be like, here's what I like about the newest ones. Maybe here's some
parts.
Some parts of the older ones that maybe liked a little bit better.
If I'm going to run around town, I've got an 02 four-wheel drive 5-speed flatbed 1-ton. It's still my favorite truck to drive. But if I'm driving to Idaho, It's not. Sorry for the old Dodges, but it's definitely doesn't have. We got a big old bug flying around here.
What is it?
I don't know, but we might see if we can get him on video. Big old moth of some sort.
It's on me. Oh, you got him. Oh yeah, just a big
Well,
moth.
that was it. It didn't stay long.
It wasn't the Helgamite. You remember those? Did I show you that?
They look like
They
they
got
got the
those
big pinchers on the
Big
front.
pinchers that are like 2 inches long, and they look like some kind of health spawn thing.
Yeah, I don't know what they actually are, but I've seen one.
They're freaky.
Yeah, they're crazy.
All right, guys. Well, we'll cut it for the night. Thank you for being with us here, Prentice. And again, guys, you can find his YouTube and his Instagrams in the description box below. Once this video gets fully uploaded, I'll get all of that information in there. Definitely check him out. Like I said, you're probably here because I do prepping, but you're probably here for guns and knives and maybe a little tactics and politics. Prentice knows about construction, building, running a homestead far, far more than I do. So,
well, I would say I do prepping on a different level. I've made it more of a
Different type.
lifestyle prep,
right.
as in no power bill, no water bill,
And still being comfortable.
and still being comfortable. So
Prentice
I want
doesn't
air
live in a hole.
conditioner. I want the flush toilet.
Right.
I want a house that you walk in and you would never know that it was powered with solar.
Off the grid.
That's my concept. And so this is a prototype basically of what I was trying to figure out how to do it. So it's been a work in progress, but if you're interested, you can kind of watch some of our videos. They'll kind of show you the progress so far.
Oh, also, if you are in Idaho, hit me up at the Preppers Bunker Outdoors. I want to talk to you about taxes and land and stuff like that because I want to go.
Yeah, we're both interested.
Yeah. So thank you again for watching. Check him out. I hope that you have a blessed evening. And if we talk about some stuff that your friends need to know, share this video. But until then, I will talk to you guys in the comment section below. Have a blessed day.